Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and we come to you with some breaking news coming out of Australia. An active police operation is underway at Bondi Beach, Sydney, where an event to mark the first day of Hanukkah was scheduled to take place. The celebration, named Hanukkah by the Sea 2025, was organised by Chabad of Bondi and was to feature live entertainment and activities for all ages near the beach's children's playground. Reports emerged that 2 people are in police custody, with authorities urging the public to avoid the area. New South Wales police are responding to reports of an active shooter, with multiple shots allegedly fired at one of Australia's most iconic beaches. Locals have reported hearing gunshots and seeing large crowds fleeing the beach. While it is unclear if there have been any injuries, police vehicles have been seen flooding the area, particularly around Campbell Parade. The situation remains ongoing, with the police urging everyone to stay clear of the scene. Some huge developments coming out of Australia this hour, where New South Wales police say 2 people are now in custody in response to a developing incident at Bondi Beach. We are trying to get the visuals that we have for you now, as we can see police flooding the area there, people fleeing. There is an operation underway. Eyewitnesses have described running and fleeing crowds as the Hanukkah event was scheduled to take place at 5 o'clock local time. This event, named Hanukkah by the Sea 2025, was indeed set to mark the first day of Hanukkah, the 12-day Jewish festival, which takes place every year, which marks 12 days of gift giving in the Indo-Pacific nation. Australia, of course, has seen a rise in anti-Semitic incidents recently, and it's run for historical highs for a second year running ever since the start of the Gaza war in October of 2023. Violent incidents have also been on the rise in regards to this. Now, we don't know the motives of the suspects currently. However, due to the nature of the event, analysts and experts are indeed making assumptions that this indeed is an anti-Semitic attack, as reports are of shots fired occur at a Hanukkah event on Bondi Beach, one of Australia's most famous tourist destinations and iconic spots in general. We have seen Australia this year seen frequent attacks on Jewish people in the country, including verbal abuse, intimidation, Nazi salutes, graffiti, vandalism and physical assaults. This year, running to October 2025, the Executive Council of Australian Jewry logged over 1,600 anti-Jewish incidents, 5 times pre-October the 7th, 2023 levels. Now, we're going to run some unverified visuals from the Bondi Beach, and it shows 2 people in police custody. The visuals posted on social media show 2 individuals on the ground as police swarm around them. There, of course, is no official confirmation of any such arrest, and police are on the site right now. If you're just tuning in, New South Wales have said 2 people are in custody to respond to what they call a developing incident at the iconic Bondi Beach, where they say an operation is underway. We're running visuals that are sourced from X right now in relation to the incident. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's spokesperson says that they are aware of an active security situation, according to the Reuters news agency, and local media has reported that there is an active shooting on site. However, it is not yet clear if there is any casualties, if anyone else is injured, has been injured or worse in the incident. But of course, a terrible, terrible incident occurring in Sydney's Bondi Beach today, marking the first day of the 12-day festival of Hanukkah. In terms of anti-Semitism in Australia, that's been on a rise. 5 times as many incidents reported in the year of 2025 and 2024 prior to the October the 7th attacks. Australia's Jewish population is around 117,000 people, roughly around 0.5% of Australia's total population. It makes Australia one of the top 10 countries by Jewish populations worldwide. Okay, we're now joined by Dr. Emmanuel Navon, an international relations lecturer at Tel Aviv University and senior fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, joining us live from Tel Aviv. Dr. Navon, thank you very much for joining us. Can I just get your instant reaction to this tragic event that's happened in front of us? Of course, we are limited for information right now. However, what we do know is that the event was scheduled to celebrate the first day of Hanukkah. And of course, anti-Semitic attacks in Australia have been on the rise 5-fold over the past 2 years. What are your thoughts on this incident, Dr. Navon?
Well, first of all, the symbol is important. It's a holiday that celebrates an event that took place over 2,000 years ago, when the Jews already back then were fighting in their land against the forces that tried to eradicate them. And the Jews prevailed, but those forces that tried to eradicate the Jews unfortunately still exist today. And as for the anti-Semitic attacks that you mentioned in Australia, they are in fact the outcome of intense demonization coming from mostly Qatar-funded propaganda relayed by Muslim immigrants in Australia that demonize the state of Israel and basically forces the Jews to disconnect themselves from Israel, to make a choice. Basically this campaign that consists of demonizing and diabolizing Israel, obviously in itself encourages violence against Jews, because most Jews in the diaspora identify with Israel, and if Israel is such evil, so all Jews are responsible, and therefore they are a legitimate target of jihad. And that is exactly what happened in Australia today.
Yeah, and Dr. Navon, what more can you tell us about the rise in anti-Semitic attacks? Not just in Australia, but of course worldwide. Violent attacks like this have also been on the rise. We saw just a couple of months ago a deadly attack in Manchester, England. Prior to that, of course, you saw the 2 embassy workers in Washington, D.C. that were also murdered. What is the impact that October the 7th has had on, and of course Israel's war in Gaza, on Jews worldwide? How is it affecting their safety?
I don't even think the word anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism is appropriate to describe what is happening since October 7 worldwide against the Jews. Anti-Semitism is a hatred of the Jews, and this hatred has existed since before antiquity. What we are discussing today is not whether or not some people in the West or elsewhere still have negative feelings toward Jews and think that they have too much power That is not the anti-Semitism we're witnessing today. What we are witnessing today, especially after October 7, is a jihadist ideology that wants to eliminate all Jews, which is indeed exactly what Hamas intended to do on October 7 with the support of Iran. And you have this hatred which is also spread around the world by the Muslim Brotherhood and funded by Qatar, that, as I said before, demonizes and diabolizes Israel and therefore the Jews in general. And therefore, you have this violence against Jewish community. You mentioned Manchester. You mentioned the killing also at the Washington embassy event about a year ago. This demonization of Israel has consequences, because if Israel is such evil, according to those jihadist ideologists, therefore all Jews are a legitimate target. And therefore the word anti-Semitism is outdated to describe this hatred that is coordinated and carried out by the Muslim Brothers and that is funded by Qatar.
Dr. Navon, critics say, of course, that Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip have put a negative perception on Jewish people worldwide. What we can see is a 5 times increase on attacks in Jews in Australia. What would you say to critics who claim that?
That they are wrong, because this hatred and this violence started in fact before. I mean, as a matter of fact, the fact that Israel led a war of self-defense in the Gaza Strip, in Lebanon and in Iran, is a consequence of October 7. It's not the cause of October 7. So those people have the logic backward. Israel defended itself, and any other country would have done the same, would have done even more. In fact, after the 9/11 in the United States, and after the terrible terrorist attacks in France, in Belgium, in Europe, by the Islamic State, NATO armies went into Afghanistan, they went into Iraq, they went into Syria, and proportionally, they made more civilian victims than the IDF in the Gaza Strip. So here is the proof that this argument is complete nonsense. People who want to hate Jews will always do so and find excuse to blame the Jews themselves for this hatred. It was the same thing, by the way, before World War II, when Nazi anti-Semitism and hatred of Jews was always blamed on the Jews themselves, because they were attributed those evil intentions. As I said before, they were demonized and diabolized, and therefore the hatred directed at them was not only justified, but blamed on the victims themselves. This is exactly what we're witnessing today.
Yes, and what actions now can the authorities take, the Australian government take, in order to make Jews feel safe in Australia?
Well, it starts with the Jews, but it never ends with the Jews. Look what happened recently in Belgium, in Brussels. There was a Christmas tree and a Christmas ceremony that was destroyed by Muslim Brothers. So there is a jihad going on today, sir, in the West, against the West, and the Jews are the first target, but they're not the last one. And if the Australian government wants to keep the Jews safe, they have to think about the whole country, not only about the Jews. They have to understand that this immigration they have allowed in Australia, without demanding from immigrants to adopt the culture and the principles of the West and of freedom, has consequences. Because by allowing jihadist ideology grow in Western societies, you have this violence directed against Jews, but this is only the beginning. So of course the Australian government should think about the safety of its Jewish citizens, but not only its Jewish citizens. It should think about the safety of Australia itself and understand what is the source of this violence. And I think the answer is pretty clear.
Okay, Dr. Navon, do stay with us, as we just have some further breaking news that have just come out of the situation. The New South Wales police have just confirmed that 2 shooters have been taken into custody after a mass shooting event at Sydney's Bondi Beach. Police have also confirmed multiple fatalities and 2 shooters having been neutralised. um, a huge breakthrough there. They've not provided how many people have been killed. Could you tell us a little bit more about what this incident will be like for the people, for the Jewish people of Australia, who should be celebrating the first day of Hanukkah right now? However, it is difficult to think that there'll be anything else on their minds.
Well, again, it goes to shows that when you have the Jews of Australia celebrating a Jewish holiday, which is over 2,000 year old as a holiday, they are being targeted because as Jews, they are identified by jihadists as part of the Jewish people and of Israel. And therefore, this whole nonsense that the jihadists, differentiate between Jews and Zionists is complete nonsense, because here you have Jews in Australia celebrating a 2,000-year-old holiday being targeted because Israel is being diabolized and delegitimized. And therefore, this global jihad against the Jewish people worldwide is really forcing the Jews in the diaspora to take a stance on Israel because they don't have a choice. And so I think that this is going to be a turning point in the history of the Jewish community and Jewish diaspora in Australia. And this unfortunately confirms a global trend in the free world, in the Western world, regarding the safety or lack thereof of the Jewish community, as I said, as a result of this global jihad, which is carried out by the Muslim Brothers and funded mostly by Qatar.
Dr. Navon, of course, we've seen a huge wave of activism across the world since the October the 7th attack, pro-Palestinian activism. Do you think there's a point at which anti-Israel activism tips into anti-Semitism, and how clearly has this line been crossed in recent years?
Well, I think the most efficient way of distinguishing between legitimate criticism and anti-Semitism, of course, criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic, because most Israelis are very critical of their government and they criticize their own country all the time. That is not anti-Semitic. As the former refusenik Natan Sharansky explained, there are three tools to differentiate between criticism and anti-Semitism, what he calls the 3 Ds: double standard, delegitimization, and demonization. Whenever you apply different standards to Israel and to other countries, especially Western countries, whenever your criticism of Israel turns into demonization, into turning Israel into a monster, and finally delegitimization, when you go from criticizing a policy to questioning the very right of Israel to exist, all those 3 Ds together constitute the dividing line between anti-Semitism and legitimate criticism.
Okay, if you're just joining us, I just want to say we are covering there's been a shooting and a developing incident at Bondi Beach in Australia, where police have confirmed multiple fatalities at the first day of a Hanukkah event on the iconic Sydney beach. Dr. Navon, I just wanted to ask, of course, online social media plays a huge part in everyone's lives now. What role does online radicalization play in turning grievance into real-world violence? Of course, we don't know the identity of the attackers, their motives, anything like that yet. And so what role does online radicalization play when it comes to attacks like these?
Well, we need to understand the very lethal effect and influence of TikTok. TikTok, which is promoting very anti-Israel, but also very anti-Western ideology. It is a Chinese platform since October 7. TikTok basically has been promoting the Islamic propaganda, promoting a very, as I said, anti-Western and anti-Israel narrative. And this, of course, has an impact on the youth especially, but social media in general. Social media in general spread a lot of fake news, tend to expose people mostly to the opinions they agree with. And of course, this demonization of Israel has a very large echo on social media, especially TikTok. So this is, of course, the influence of TikTok is an issue for Israel, but as I said, it is also an issue for the free world. And free nations today have to get together to fight this scourge of jihad and of this alliance between radical Islam and autocratic regimes such as China and Russia. The free world must get together and understand that the Jewish people and Israel is the first target, is on the front line, but it is not the last one. And if the free world does not get together, does not unite, everybody will be threatened.
Dr. Navon, we have some breaking news coming in. Now, local media in Australia is reporting that at least 10 people have been killed in the attack at Bondi Beach today, while one shooter has been killed in the police response to the incident. More details are, of course, awaited. Dr. Navon, if these statistics turn out to be true, they are what local media is reporting. What can I get? Can I get a response to that? 10 people killed, celebrating the first day of Hanukkah on Bondi Beach in Sydney.
Well, it's a horrendous figure, and let us hope that it will not continue to grow. 10 people who are the victims of a age-old hatred towards the Jewish people, and they are the direct victim, of course, as I've said before, of this campaign of demonization and diabolization of Israel and of the Jewish people, and this has to stop. Of course, Jews in the diaspora today know and must know that they have a safe home in Israel, that they should always know that they have where to return. But it doesn't mean that the Jewish diaspora should vanish and disappear, because that would be a victory to our enemies. So there has to be a lot of solidarity between Israel and the diaspora and the free world. But those 10 people who've been murdered have been the victim of this anti-Semitic hatred, as I said, promoted by a jihadist ideology with the support and financial support of Qatar.
Dr. Emmanuel Navon, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's been a pleasure to